the RSI Hermes, the ship that I didn't know I needed until I saw it. The Hermes is a medium cargo hauler that was released in January 2026 for the 4.6 patch. This ship is essentially a cargo version of the Apollo, where the interior medical rooms have been stripped out to give it a wide open area to store boxes. I'm going to avoid using the term variant here on purpose because this is something CIG has started to move away from in the game. This means that the paints for this ship are not going to work on the Apollo, and the Apollo paints are not going to work on this ship. Just something to be aware of if you're looking at either of these ships and the paints that they have available on the store. I'll be making another video on this topic later. This video is going to be split up into 4 parts: tour and aesthetics, general performance, role performance, and my final thoughts and verdict. Starting off with the tour and aesthetics, when you first approach the Hermes, you'll notice that the rear entrance is a bit different than what the Apollo has to allow for the movement of cargo boxes. Instead of an airlock style entrance, you'll see more of a standard ramp, similar to that of the Zeus. Once inside the ship, you'll be immediately greeted by a very large cargo bay that feels like it's a mobile warehouse. Along the walls inside the entrance, you'll find weapon lockers, suit lockers, as well as the tractor beam terminal. Along the roof of the entire cargo bay, you'll notice the track system with the tractor beam resting on it towards the rear of the cargo bay. Moving further up to the next section is a small area that houses components as well as an engineering terminal. The next compartment is the flight deck. In here, you'll see everything that the Apollo has: living quarters, kitchen, dining area, bathroom, and the same gray elevator that gives you that secondary entrance and exit. There is a pilot and co-pilot seat, and a front glass that gives them both great visibility for flying. The outside of the ship is pretty much exactly the same as what we already know with the Apollo. The only real notable difference is the change with the rear ramp, and the side engines are a little bit larger on the Hermes. The Hermes also comes stock with this blue paint that I personally really like. Now looking at the ship's general performance. The Hermes has a pretty good top-end SCM speed and nav speed. However, the ship does lack a little bit in maneuverability and its nav speed acceleration. It has an SCM speed of 180 meters a second and a nav speed of 1,200 meters a second. To achieve those speeds, it's going to take about 5 seconds for SCM, 3 if you're boosting, and for nav, it's going to take about 33 seconds, or if you're boosting, you're looking at about 25 seconds. For its pitch, yaw, and roll, we're looking at 26 degrees a second for both pitch and yaw, and a roll of 60 degrees a second. That means for a full rotation, either pitch or yaw, you're looking at 13.8 seconds. A full roll can be done in 6 seconds. Just for comparison, this is slightly worse than the Starlancer Max, which has a pitch yaw roll of 31.65. To be fair though, it seems minimal given the increase in cargo capacity we have here, which I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into the roll performance. Now, speaking of that increased capacity, this ship does have room for some vehicles to fit inside. I've seen some who have done some creative things to get an Ursa to fit, but it's not something I would recommend or that I would do personally. We're really looking at things that are more Cyclone sized or smaller. So think along the lines of like a Rock, PTV, STV, etc. Those will all fit without a problem in this ship. In fact, you can fit several if you wanted to take some friends out on a rock mining expedition or go out and do some races. Now we start looking at combat. This ship comes with 4 size 4 guns, 2 of which can be controlled by the co-pilot as a remote turret. It comes stock with CF447 Rhino repeaters, and the ship puts out a total of 1,658 DPS. If you were to swap out to something like size 4 attritions, you'd be getting up to about 3,258 DPS. The ship comes stock with 16 size 2 missiles as well. On the defensive side of things, we get a stock setup of 4 size 2 stop shield generators totaling 25,200 HP as a bubble shield. For whole HP, we have a total of 124,700 HP. So overall, the ship can be fairly tanky but against some fighters, just be ready for those shields to drop. When used in combat testing in a medium risk NPC bounty, the Hermes held its own and had no issue. With a ship like this, I don't really test beyond something like a MRT, because I think that's stepping too far out of its intended role, at least in my opinion. Not to say that it can't be done, but for this purpose, I'm just going to stick with seeing how it does in the MRT. The claim time on this ship isn't bad either. The ship has a claim time of 11 minutes and 10 seconds, or if you want to expedite it, it goes down to 2 minutes and 48 seconds with a fee of 8,740 AUEC. Lastly, for the general performance category, this ship comes with 4.65 SCU of quantum fuel, so you'll be able to get around no problem and not really have to worry about refueling for a while. And either the stock drive, which is an Odyssey, or something more like a Crossfield, you can go about 290 GM with this thing before running out. This can make a big difference when having to run places like Levski or some places in Pyro. Now let's talk role performance. For its intended role of cargo, this ship does it very well. It holds a total of 288 SCU, which is split between 2 cargo grids in the ship. If you're doing commodity trading, the ideal loadout is going to be 8 32 SCU containers along with 2 16 SCU containers. When comparing this to some other ships out there, it benefits from having a fairly standard cargo grid. By a standard cargo grid, I mean there's no oddball third row on top to cram boxes in. Looking at the Zeus.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Agent K. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will, look right here.
You can run contracts in this ship that use 8 SCU and 16 SCU box sizes without having any issues in fitting them in on the grid, depending on the overall SCU, of course. Loading this ship couldn't be any easier either. You can either load from the back ramp with a handheld tractor beam or an Atlas, or you can choose to use the built-in tractor beam that runs along the track inside. Simply press S on your keyboard while on the terminal to move it to the rear entrance, grab a box, hit S again to start pulling it back in, and you place it on the grid. This ship is also great for running cargo in a duo. You can have a friend standing at the back with a tractor beam, and you could be running the roof-mounted turret system, and you find the right rhythm, you're each alternating pulling boxes in, and it's a great setup. Now, I'm not normally a huge fan of off-grid cargo, and that's just mainly due to trying to be mentally prepared for if and when CIG ever implements the change that they've talked about, where having boxes off-grid will come with downsides. But if you want to load cargo off-grid in this ship, you have plenty of room to do so. You can fit an entire row of cargo down the center as well as fill up the little area just at the rear entrance. Just filling the center to be the same length as the grid gives you another 72 SCU. When utilizing the off-grid space at the rear of the ship, you can easily manage 400 SCU, maybe even more. Ultimately, if you like off-grid cargo, this is more of a 288 is your minimum. You can definitely go above. All right, let's dive into final thoughts and verdict, and we'll go through some pros and cons here. For the pros, the ship has a really good SCM and nav speed. It's got good firepower. The shields and hull HP are decent. It's got a good missile loadout. It holds 288 SCU of cargo with a good grid layout. It has great fuel and range, so you're not going to have to worry about having to refuel constantly. And I love the look of the ship. It has great aesthetics. For cons, my biggest gripe with the ship is the acceleration. Getting up to that nav speed takes just a little too long for me for this ship, but it's not a deal breaker. The other only thing I can think of, and for me it's kind of a stretch to even include it as a con, is it doesn't have the ability to really fit an Ursa. So along with that, it's also not going to be ideal for any FPS missions where you might want a medical bed with you. Now, again, it's a cargo ship. Its intent is not to be able to do that, but just something to think about if you don't really have any other ships. At the end of the day, though, this is one ship that got me really excited. The day I jumped on when it came out and I played around with it with a friend, I knew I wanted to get it. Now, if you are a person that likes to pledge for ships, it is a $220 pledge. Or if you're concierge and you still have access to the Warbond version, it's $200 and it comes with 2 paints. If you happen to have a Raft CCU sitting around from before the price increase, you can get this price down significantly. That, along with the War Bond upgrade, if you still have access to it, will give you $85 off. Even without that though, to me, this ship is still totally worth it if you're into cargo. If you're not really into cargo, then maybe look into other options that are out there that might give you the ability to have a med bed or at least fit a medical URSA to give you a little bit more variety. If you're not looking to pledge, then this is definitely going to be worth buying in game as soon as that becomes available in the next couple of patches. But anyways, that's it from me. This to me, I totally worth pledging for, or at the very least getting it in game if you like cargo. If not, then obviously there's tons of other ships you can look at that might fit your playstyle more. But yeah, this to me is an awesome ship and I don't regret my purchase at all. Anyways, hope this has been helpful, and if you have any questions, be sure to leave it in the comment. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, or even join the Discord. But that's it. I will talk to you all later and see you in the verse. Have a good day.